Well, that was gritty. Dom is the new Brazilian Amazon original series that's a character crime drama with a lot of dark and sad themes. That sounds like a lot of fun, right? Well, should you be binging it? The show follows Victor, a police officer who dedicated his life to fight the narco-traffic war and to help his son Pedro, a drug addict who became one of the most wanted criminals in Brazil. This is Amazon Prime Video's first scripted Brazilian original series. It's a crime drama inspired by the true story of a father and son on opposite sides of the war on drugs in Rio. Now, the story follows both Victor in the past and present and his son, Pedro Dom. In flashbacks, the young Victor becomes a covert military intelligence agent and makes the war on drugs his entire life mission. This story is steeped in sadness. I mean, we watch the devastation caused by the introduction of cocaine into the Brazilian slums in the late 60s and early 70s. And then we also see the effects the drugs have on the population 30 years later. Now, this is a slow burn of a story. I mean, the pace isn't slow, but there is a massive amount of character development that goes in. The season is 8 episodes, and each of them right about an hour long. And for the first 6 episodes, we're learning all about the characters. I mean, and this approach really works because it allows us to get completely invested in them. Now, we may not like them or their behaviors, but it is hard not to be sucked into their life. The drama in this comes as we watch father and son on opposing sides of the law and ideals. I mean, Victor has spent his life trying to fight the war on cocaine in his country, and Pedro is an addict, and not just a casual one. There are some heartbreaking sequences where we watch Pedro, who nicknamed himself Dom, just fight his addictions, and many times he loses. Pedro has a lot of charisma, and that's what helps to make him a sympathetic character. He's intelligent, but he's also dominated by his addiction, which leads to some terrible decisions. There's an escalation to the tension as the show progresses also. Each episode builds on the next and gets really exciting as Pedro forges a path by doing things he's great at, and even if those things are highly questionable. And I really like how they build out Pedro. He's most certainly flawed, but at every moment I am holding out hope that he's going to overcome his addiction. We see a sad and trapped boy inside a man as he vacillates in his sobriety. There's so much in the show too where the present mirrors the past. There are moral dilemmas and the fight against drugs. And decisions are made and people are hurt or even worse. And the characters do a great job of translating their guilt to the screen so that then we can feel their emotions. The undying hope in the show is what really got me. I mean, it's present in both Victor and Pedro. Now, Victor believes that he can either help Pedro or he believes that Pedro will finally become sober. And Pedro believes that he can succeed no matter what he's doing. And there were so many times that my heart was broken while watching this. I mean, I embraced the hope and then rode the roller coaster of emotions. And I probably should have been more jaded, but the actors made me care about their characters to such a degree that I just couldn't ignore it. The last 2 episodes of this season are pretty intense too. And that's not to say that the others weren't as well, but everything compounds and then begins to explode in just those final 2 episodes. So as you might expect with a show that has addiction as one of its focuses, this show is very gritty. I mean, there is a lot of drug use shown throughout, and I don't think it ever glorifies the actions. I mean, yeah, the characters are excited and fully into their usage, but the show gives us the hard visuals of what their use can lead to. There's also a lot of violence that surrounds the characters. Some is due to where they reside in the slums, but a lot of it comes from their conscious actions to commit crimes. And the show doesn't glorify that either. I think it does a good job of placing us in their world to watch it go down. It's high adrenaline with the stakes, and the danger is imminent. Now, the soundtrack also helps to keep up the excitement. There are driving beats where the pounding of the bass just works to increase the heart rate. I like the scenery. I thought it was great in the show too. Sometimes we're seeing the glitter of the city at night, and other times we watch white sand beaches next to just this very blue ocean. But there's even a beauty to the slums. I mean, sometimes there's jungle that's encroaching over the ramshackle homes, and other times it's the colorful lights and the outfits of the partiers that make just a confusing atmosphere. I mean, the content is dreary, but the visuals are of people having fun, and this contrast really works to confound the senses. I'm sure the darkness of the tone is going to make it hard to watch for some people, but the characters are so well developed and built out that it's really hard not to be sucked into them, even if you loathe everything else you're seeing because it's so sad and depressing. The themes of addiction, love, family, and hope are really strong, and to me they made for a very compelling watch. The season ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I am curious where the show is going to take us in future seasons. And I'm curious if my heart can take that actual journey. Overall, I really enjoyed the show. The characters are charismatic and compelling and disappointing. The The story builds to one that is exciting and unignorable, but the grittiness and sadness, it just might be too much for some. There is a ton, a ton, of sex and nudity with a whole lot of profanity, violence, and drug use. I give season 1 of Dom 4.5 out of 5 couches. So have you seen anything gritty but compelling lately? I'd love to know what it was in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.